to the IDF! Death to the IDF! Death to the IDF!
Counter-terrorism police are investigating footage that appears to show the Belfast rap trio Kneecap calling for MPs to be killed. In video from another concert, one member allegedly shouts, "Up Hamas, up Hezbollah." The band has called it a smear campaign, saying it didn't intend to hurt the families of murdered MPs Joe Cox and David Amess.
Okay, now 5 is a lot, right? I'm going to give you some credit. Do you know how many mass shooters there have been in America over the last 10 years? Counting or not counting?
Well, this has certainly been a year, as far as I'm concerned, from Bob Violand saying death to the IDF, and Kneecap saying kill your MP and getting arrested, and then taking charge out of court for wearing a Hezbollah flag, as well as several other discrepancies. This has been quite a year for censorship, even if it may not seem like on surface it deals with BBFC and MPAA stuff that we often talk about, but we'll talk about nevertheless. This is our 2025 annual report with my usual host, Bob Patron, or your fuckface, and I'm Cunt. I'll let you explain on that one.
That's just a little comedic comedic nicknames decided to give to us. I couldn't decide who was fuckface and who was the cunt, but evidently you decided for us now, so that's that mystery solved. But yeah, quite a year. And yes, I mean, censorship issues, probably both sides of the Atlantic. You know, we've had and also happened. They've had Jimmy Kimmel. Was it Jimmy Kimmel? Yes.
Yep, that was him.
Yeah. Sorry, there was another Jimmy on fucking late night comedy host in America, but I can't remember.
Jimmy Fallon.
Yeah, him. I get him and Kimmel mixed up. But why are there so many bloody Jimmys? But yeah. So between that and that, yeah, it's quite the quite the bloody interesting. Oh, not to mention, of course, all the issues surrounding Charlie Kirk.
Well, people will be fired as we speak for even questioning his status. Like, well, I don't agree with what he's racist, but you lose your job.
Yeah, but now, obviously, as we've acknowledged, that isn't necessarily a free speech violation because the government isn't doing it. But as we've but if from a side that bitch about cancel culture a lot, they like to cancel, don't they?
I'm afraid so, but the right wing, I've noticed throughout history, has always had the itching palm for the willingness to control what we see or think. I mean, the left does it to some extent, but I think the right seems to do it a lot more, and this is even more insidious because they say, well, we advocate for free speech. Well, free speech for whom? Because I see there's still censoring on X and stuff like that if it doesn't go with their agenda.
Well, exactly. There we go. It's been well, yeah. Like I say, I mean, you are right. The right wing do basically try to control what people can and can't see all the time. And in this country, we've seen that all the time. I mean, we can get into, the whole video nasty things of the 80s, plus, of course, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles having to be changed to Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles were some egregious examples. Fortunately, those have all gone now, but fucking hell, man.
There'll still be an enemy afoot. I know in my area, for privacy reasons, I won't be telling people where I live. But our county council has decided to relocate books that deal with gender ideology out of the children's section, and this has directly affected us within the county that I live in, which it's a bit trivial, really, because they don't need to be bringing culture war stuff on British shores. Let America do that for themselves, but then again, it's even spreading to Canada, like parts of Alberta and stuff. And I think even 1 or 2 places in Australia have even tried to tap into the whole book banning thing at school districts, which makes me uneasy.
To say nothing of the fact that, that was it, Online Safety Act suddenly got enforced around about, was it July this year? I think it was.
That was it. And I made a video about it highlighting my concerns. While I am We even did a video last year before it went into action with that guy Nick. I'm not as critical about it as the both of you were. Maybe because I could do without watching people pee on one another, but I do think
Yeah, but
censoring.
no one's forcing you to watch. No one's forcing you to watch that shit, dude.
Oh no, I totally understand. That's your voluntary means, although I don't really encourage it. But I'm not a fan of them putting content blocks and filters on political posts, as they have reported on some sources. I think Novara has said it about, if you do discussions about Gaza or Palestine, hell, probably even Ukraine, they'll put an 18 plus filter like on Reddit, and I use Reddit a lot, and that doesn't sit well with me. I don't even want to give Reddit my identification just so I can see and talk about stuff that's taboo, like Israel Palestine, or about sex or pornography, because I want to see what ticks people off. But yep, there's a
It's kind of a moot anyway because you just access a bloody VPN and then just you can get around it anyway. That
well,
means like subscriptions for VPNs have just skyrocketed ever since the act came into force.
that
What's
is
what's
true.
annoying What's annoying is that it's called the Online Safety Act 2023 because that's what it's passed through. But of course, for some reason, like most legislation, it takes like freaking 2 years or so to actually become freaking to get enforced. I don't know how it works, and probably someone can tell me, but I don't know. So of course, while it became like in force under Starmer's Labour government, it was actually instigated under the preceding Tory government. So if anyone wants to use it to like score points off of Labour and everything, sorry, but it's the Tory government that instigated because surprise fucking surprise, the Tories tried to attack porn.
Well, no one wants to watch in front of their grandparents or their wives, but let's face it, even with this OSA business, they will find a way to access it regardless. And my fear is, with all these safeguards in place, they'll find it through sort of even more dodgier channels and get like viruses and spamware and Trojan horses on their computer while they're not wearing Trojans on, doing it with their wife. And then, let's not forget all the amount of terrorism propaganda that's on a lot of these platforms, X included, and Telegram, which is an application that is popular with Russians and Ukrainians. That,
Well, actually,
oh,
if you want to talk about that, I mean, we define terrorism. The most common terrorism in America right now is radical right-wing white supremacism, and has been for several years. And let's face it, ever since Musk took over, Twitter, I'm not calling it X, it's pretty much become a breeding ground for that shit.
I'm afraid so. At your own risk and at your own peril on something like that. But I can't really control what people do and what people say. As far as I'm concerned, I don't think people give a shit. I think they stopped giving a shit, especially when COVID hit and everyone was sort of isolating themselves in their houses and rooms, and they got fed into this all odd business about 5G towers and COVID vaccines will give you autism. Now, some of that's quite dubious. I am suspicious of Big Pharma, but don't believe in the whole 5G tower vaccine autism business. But a lot of that's
Well, no, because it's all bullshit.
popular on the internet, and no online safety act alone can stop people from believing what they want to believe. There'll still be posts about asylum hotels, there'll still be child pornography, there'll still be ads recruiting people into ISIS or trying to smuggle illegal migrants. Far left, far right, they'll still be there. And people praising Luigi Mangione, they'll still be there. And that could still be
Well,
constituting a violation of online safety because it's promoting um, incitement of violence to the public. Because mainly this is just a video that we're like, or podcasts, in all fairness, where we're talking about the scandals that have struck this year. It's easy to talk about films, and we certainly will, but this has been quite bleak for me. You know, I always have suicide thoughts, and I'm still gonna do it. I'm not gonna give up on that, but I want to talk about it so you, the person listening, is informed. But I need to get that out of the way because that was probably the biggest concern for me is people censoring essentially pensioners and people over 60 and 70 out on the streets. They don't do anything. They were probably protesting against apartheid, but they got escorted by police and now they're prescribed as terrorism sympathizers. And that's a stain on their records that they'll never be able to absolve. Not even like someone who's, shoplifted or done like bank fraud. That can be wiped off a lot easier than someone who's got a terrorism offense. And then also, can we start talk about the Bob Viola kneecap controversies? Because I'm sure people are probably a bit curious about us hearing that because we didn't talk about on the rape or sexual assault episode.
Well, yeah, because that wasn't really sort of because that wasn't really relevant to the topic at hand. But okay, yeah, we can talk about that. It's not a problem.
Because as far as I'm concerned, the BBC was so fearful, and I'm sure they're fearful, especially about that recent report about them editing Trump's words out of context. I don't fully buy it, but that's another side point. But BBC was so worried about Kneecap saying something like Glastonbury that obviously they didn't want them to be shown on programming that Bob Villan just said diff to the RDF on live on stage, and everyone was like, "Whoa!" And it caused a shitstorm. They got a ban. They're banned from traveling into the US. I think no, Hungary banned Kneecap, but US they banned visas for Bob Viola, and now they're pretty much blacklisted. And they appeared on Louis Theroux, the main singer, and British Airways dropped the sponsorship for Louis Theroux's podcast because Bob Viola, whose actual name is Pascal Robertson Foster, because there was an organization that outed his name. So yeah, I don't know what to say about that. That's almost like body count as
But
far as
so that's actually just ironic because they originally like brought in Bob Villan, aired him to like as a means of like cutting out Kneecap for these very reasons. They thought, oh, Kneecap will start, you know, promoting hardcore radical leftist thought and everything. So they brought in Bob Villan, clearly not knowing who anything about them. And of course, like anything fucking all fucking Kneecap said was fuck Keir Starmer. It's like I think most people would probably agree with that. It's just like Bob Villan said, no, fuck it. We're not gonna sugarcoat what we're saying. He said they still have a free Palestine, which most people in on the stage at Glastonbury, most people were saying anyway. And let's face it, as time's gone on, the that sentiment's creeping away, not just expanding, not just from the freaking far left, but into center lefts, into even into like centrist liberals are like starting to actually embrace, this is right and everything. Basically, the Overton window is very much shifting. If you don't realize that, you need to pay attention. But then he decides to go one further and say, nah, the deaf to the IDF and everything. And of course, he actually meant the IDF actually as an organization, not the fucking, not like the soldiers and everything. But of course, hey, don't let that get in the way of misconstruing it for a propaganda story. So, well, I guess that's it really. But I mean, but yeah, it is. It's quite funny or in an ironic sense when you look at it like that. Case also, there's a due note. It just dawned on me that I've actually seen Bob Dylan live before in the past.
oh, really? Was he playing in
Yeah,
Cardiff?
back in yeah, he was supporting the Offspring.
Oh, well, there you go. So now it becomes personal for you. Now you're like, oh, you're invested into how things will turn out for this band. Because I didn't know who the
Yeah,
hell
well,
they were until that incident. So that's what got me interested. And I was like, why are they, what is this trying to do like Ice-T from Body Count saying about cop killer, better than you and
yeah.
me?
Or NWA with a fuck the police.
Oh, there are parallels. Well, for me, Body Count's probably a better example because it mixes the hip hop and rock metal aesthetic, which I'm sure that's what they were going for their re
Oh yeah,
music.
totally.
And
Oh, totally, totally. Needs to say,
um,
after the whole controversy,
oh,
I've gone and downloaded all of Bob Dylan's albums onto my phone, well, onto my on my music app on my phone.
It's not illegal downloading, is it? You'll get viruses
No,
if you
no, I'm paying
knock
it.
on the
No,
door.
I'm paying a subs. No, dude, I'm paying a subscription to the app, and basically I can download the music. Just download the music like as I like.
Okay. Well, hey,
Yeah,
thank you for supporting independent artists.
and
But
don't worry, it's not Spotify.
oh yeah, well, another one on that one. I'm sure people are aware of them not paying musicians, but now they're in the hands of the military, industrial complex, and even presenting ads for immigration and customs enforcement in the US, which, as we've known,
Otherwise
has
known as
been
ICE.
kidnapping people through and through on the street. And this IC block better melt itself down because you better take yourself off Spotify. Even Massive Attack has said we're not going to be on it because of what Israel is doing, or at least they withdrew themselves from that market. So more and more people are channeling off it and go with Bandcamp, like where my
I
music
abandoned
is.
I abandoned Spotify years ago when they wouldn't stop platforming Joe Rogan during the COVID pandemic.
I was aware of that because he's pretty much the big face of the platform itself, and him going on about, well, just try ivermectin or Health Trank, um,
Oh my God.
half truths.
Ugh.
I mean,
Oh, not they're not half truths at
oh.
all. They're just complete bullshit.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't really buy the science behind it because a lot of these people are linked with
There is no
Robert F.
science.
Kennedy, who's a bit of a quack. Well, no, not a bit, but a whole quack.
Total quack.
Um, yeah, and I've got issues with Big Pharma, but I don't really trust people like that. They're a bit like weird self-help gurus who will tell you anything. You could drink bleach and it'll cure you of COVID. Don't do it, kids. You'll regret it. You'll die. But
Yeah,
I know
God,
we're
I remember.
digressing.
Yeah, we are digressing. Yeah.
But I wanted to
Should
get
we?
the Bob Villan and kneecap stuff out of the way because I'm sure a lot of people were thinking about that when we were doing our progress, but we didn't get to do an episode because of the technical issues and the fact that, for I'm sure people who are aware, we use Skype for our calls, but Skype has now transformed to Teams and they don't really have an accessible recording button easily available. So we have to resort back to Zoom, which has that 40-minute time limit. So if you understand there's any sort of gaps, we do apologize. I was saying it for the audience out there. Um, but yeah, sorry. Um,
Well, don't worry. So, anyways, get onto the subject of films, basically.
yep, absolutely. Now in terms of cinema, this has sort of been more or less eclipsed because of political and world events related with Israel, Palestine, or Trump censoring things that he doesn't like to hear. But as far as I'm concerned, the ones that were the big red flag for me in terms of ratings were probably, let me see, The Long Walk, One Battle After Another. You could say Sinners, Chainsaw
Sinner,
Man,
yeah.
Rector Arc. I'll let you speak on
As
those.
right, okay. Well, Sinners is my so far still holding up as my favorite film of the year because I think when I do my top 10 at the end of the year, Sinners will be number one. Okay. One battle after another and a long walk. Nah, they're pretty standard 15s, I would say. I can't really see anything that would indicate a okay, just for the long walk. So I know these are standard R-rated fare, standard 15 rated fare. Probably, I mean, long walk is yeah, also MA 15 plus in Australia. So yeah, pretty consistent. I mean, I there was quite a bit of quite a bit of violence in it, but again, it's nothing you wouldn't expect in a film of that rating. One battle after another is well, a very long film. Again, I mean, that only got an M in Australia, so yeah, that's very so that's so that kind of says it. So obviously, there's nothing particularly too egregious in that one. And now, obviously, we say a Chainsaw Man. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I was as two R-rated slash 15 rated anime films go, I was quick to watch them both. And well, I saw them both at this. Sorry, yeah, sorry, Chainsaw Man and Demon Slayer, in case I didn't mention that. I watched them both at cinemas, made comparisons. And yeah, they're both particularly violent, but yeah, Chainsaw Man is just that wee bit more violent. I mean, it does it is quite impressive just showing just how far the 15 can go and everything, and all that. I mean, it's like what frickin' Mark Commode keeps saying, 15-year-olds today, they don't know they're born. And of course, I'm talking about a guy who came around that age, in the post-Furman world. So obviously, I can see. I always say it was coming of age when the 15 was starting to loosen up a bit. Big, as the first one I saw was South Park. But I mean, as someone who can remember when a film like Terminator or Alien had to be rated 18 and everything, I mean, it's amazing how far we've come.
Well, I would say so too. Even though I was too young to see 15 films when you turned 15, there's an age gap between us, but I'm not going to tell you how many years it is. But beside the point, to me, at least since 2006, and especially like since the 2010s, the 15 certificate is just too broad as far as I'm concerned. You got films that are pretty much just good because of a motherfucker, and then films that are just insanely violent and just graphic and got quite used to a lot of C words and drugs and some quite heavy sexual behavior going on. So, but the reason why I bought those particularly, at least I'll start with The Long Walk, was because it got 16 plus in France. It was also deemed very violent by quite a few people I've talked to, especially considering how bleak it is, with essentially a story about a bunch of teenage men, boys, being shot and killed by some sort of armed force dystopia in the near future. As far as I'm concerned, it seems a little too eerily of the Banton Death March. And some of those images, especially when you consider that the BBFC did not list suicide as a ratings concern, and there's a lot of scenes of people stabbing themselves or trying to slit their throats. It's not for pleasant viewing, but it gets people talking. Mark Kermode said, it's a top end 15. I took that for what it was, because it was. But I think past that 18 would probably kill its own audience because the film's more or less aimed at sort of the 14 to 20 age crowd. Sort of like
Yeah, and let's
Gen Z
face.
men.
Hmm. Well, yeah, I mean, certainly would that. Like I say, it's been a while since I saw it, and I can't remember it too well. But I do remember like one person's legs being run over by a tank track. But it's like one of those. I mean, violence level, it's a lot on the same way as oh, was it The Hunt film that came out quite recently. I
Well, the
say quite
hunt,
recently came out into
well, the
yeah,
hunt
and
was
of course
more
the violent
excessive, and it had a bit of more of
yeah
a comic tone. This was just grim.
yeah. Although I think like it's all like justified within the context of narrative, that's probably the definition that's probably the defense I'd give. Uh, I mean that's one. I mean, when didn't Novocaine come out this year?
It did. I am aware there's a scene where someone's arm is ripped in half, or you see their butt bone. Oh, that's quite graphic. That would have never passed at 15, 20 years ago.
Well, no, well, maybe not 20, 30 years ago, definitely. I mean, again, I think Cook might have passed at 15. Duvall, maybe not, although he did pass Dog Soldiers at 15. But yeah, and like I say, I mean, go back 30 years, and I mean, you look at all these 15 rate films, and shit, if James Furman saw them, it'd either be heavily cut to get that 15 or it'd have to be an 18. And even the 18 probably couldn't even guarantee it'd be uncut because there were some R-rated films back then which they even cut for like 18s. It's just, dude, what a dick.
Well, I, for one, don't believe in censoring films at the 18 level. If it's for adults, it is
No,
for
no,
adults,
nor do I.
bar none. Although at 15, there it's a bit of a grey area. Well, as you already well know, I'm already quite defensive about films that are a bit too graphic and heavy at too low of a rating because it, the whole nostalgia thing. But also, I don't want people to get too what's the word? I don't want people to have it too easy. In an analogy, think of it like this. You wouldn't want to give students nowadays too many laptops and iPads for their studies because those fucking fools will get distracted playing Candy Crush on it or play like shoot 'em up video games while they're hearing a lecture in the classroom. So you've got to give them like physical hard copy of books so they won't be easily distracted on their phones while they're hearing about E equals MC squared.
Well, yeah, obviously there's like, yeah, well, that's that and everything. But I mean, no, I mean, but then again, that's not, um, but on the subject of bloody, of films and everything, I mean, I do have this sort of like difference because the way I see it, 15 is our equivalent of America's R rating. I know I've said this more times, and it's technically worse than like an R rating because parent in America, and when it comes to R rating, parents can still take their kids, or kids can still go with their parents, basically. You just only have to be 17 to say unaccompanied. With a 15 here, that's not the case. You're either over 15, you can go. If you're under 15, you can't, not even with your parents. So, I mean, technically speaking, it's kind of safer to rate at 15 than it is R rating.
Well, you're not wrong. But in the UK, unlike most countries, sad to say, really, R15 is hard. No one under that age is admitted, and I'm sure you could have the same problem, just as of this weekend, with people trying to sneak in and go see Five Nights at Freddy's.
Oh,
I don't know
but that's enough what.
if they have sort of done the whole 15A thing in Belfast. Might, but they didn't do the same thing from what I heard from recent reports. So maybe they still kept it 15 as such. Probably got a bit of a
I
word from the
have
council or the local police department. I'm not so sure. But at the same time, that's a film recently that's
I
been
haven't
getting a bit of trouble with young patrons
I
starting to
haven't
sneak into it.
I haven't heard any Wattsmith reports of that. Not that I'll be paying much attention anyway. I mean, again, it's another PG-13 rated film. So again, the BBFC have just proven out to be dicks by rating it at 15, just like they did earlier this year with fucking Naked Gun.
Well, I
Hmm.
hear there was an all sex joke on the Naked Gun remake, and I was like, what? But then again, the original film, that was a 15. That had jokes where someone was
Well,
fighting
yeah,
with a
12
dildo.
didn't exist back then. Yeah, 12 didn't exist back then. The thing is, though, it was only a PG in America. So it's like, well, if Americans think it's okay at that rating, then as far as I'm concerned, so should we.
Well, Britain is slow to change, really. I'm seeing that a lot more as of
Yeah, I
recent
know, but
years.
the point is they shouldn't be. Like, if national pride and everything, for the good of a country, we need to get with a program.
Yeah. Well, even I don't think Keir Starmer alone could fight that. I think they're probably thinking at the board, Natasha Kaplinsky and company. Hopefully, they're not hearing me say this. They probably already feel, well, they'll see it anyways, but let's just put the safeguards in place so that that helps offset the parents' concerns, and also offset GB News's concerns about them being indoctrinated to woke ideology or transgenderism
Hmm.
or whatever reasons they can find. Because BBFC, JTS make quite a few media appearances on GB News. We'll put this up on YouTube. Type in Gloria De Piero, who I think works for the board, and then David Austin. I think he's appeared one or two times, discussing about what the work they do. And I'm like, okay, they're trying to level at it with the conservatives just to get them out of their way, even though they probably aren't reform type people, anyways. But that's just me sort of talking out of thin air. It could be conspiracy, and hopefully they don't take offense to what I just said there. I would like to bring up about One Battle After Another and Sinners, and the reason why I brought those up particularly was the politics of the films, not so much the content, because One Battle was fine at 15. It actually was quite mild in terms of violence. I didn't really see much bloodshed and gore. Not like Sinners, that was so more heavy-handed. The only thing I can remember with One Battle After Another was if Leo was smoking a crack pipe and Sean Penn was having an erection being threatened at gunpoint, which, huh? But then again, there was a lot of that terrorism stuff and left-wing anarchism that made me think and it came out a little after Charlie Kirk's assassination, and that made me very concerned that the film was going to get banned in certain US cinemas. It didn't, because I don't think they made that quite openly obvious in some of the marketing, and it just made it sort of like a kooky, sort of dark comedy thriller about a man trying to find his daughter. But if you look deeper into it, the film is very political, although it's quite bourgeois
No, that goes.
leftism.
Yeah, no, I think that was deliberately the point and everything, that it was quite a political one. Uh, I mean, the phrase "timely" comes to mind.
It did, and it certainly operates under that lens. I think most people will not respond too positively to it because of that. Although I would like to interject, it's not as good as Bader-Meinhof Complex, and I don't
Which
think
I've yet to see.
as woke as it thinks it is. Not like, let's say, Palestine 36 or No Other Land, which are two films about Palestinian struggles that I saw. One of them in an Irish cinema in Dublin, at the IFI. Palestine 36 is a 12A, but I was very nervous this film was going to have troubles with the censors because it promotes a pro-independence ideology and actually criticizes the British government for their colonial operations there when he was still known as um, the British Mandate or British Palestine. Because it doesn't focus so much on Zionism as much as it focuses on British colonialism, which in many respects Gandhi did the same thing, but that was more celebrated, it was more respected by the higher ups because there was a time window involved. Time will go on and people will respect Palestine 36 and No Other Land a lot more. It's a strong 12A, lots of disturbing scenes of people being shot and
Right.
targeted.
Mark, which film's this again?
This is Palestine 36. It's a 12A film.
All
But
right.
it's a strong 12A. There's like four F words, quite a lot of scenes of violence and potential terrorist activity. That it's probably more dangerous than one battle after another, although everything has to be taken into context based on which country you're in. I'm glad I saw Palestine 36 in Ireland because Ireland is generally more sort of pro-independence and pro-Ukraine, pro-Palestine than most European countries are. And you don't even need a visa to come to Ireland. You can come there as a British citizen, but don't you dare promote that Protestant rubbish. And then No Other Land, that's a 15 standard through, but it does have a lot of disturbing scenes. One battle after another is not disturbing, it's more just darkly comedic. Sinners wasn't even disturbing to me. It was just sort of WTF in my head. I know some people got into a beef about the woke ideas and that it's anti-white, but I expect that of a big budget film that was predominantly made for a black audience. And some
Was
people
it
do
made?
also,
Wasn't it made by Ryan Coogler?
yep, Black Panther and Creed.
Yeah. Well, there we go then. I mean, it's kind of his like sort of forte, his bread and butter and everything. This is kind of what his does. He likes to talk about, take film. He likes to create stories from the African American or basically African or black. Oh God, whatever you want to say. A perspective, and actually, well, obviously it's for a more with a black audience in mind, but also not just for them, for like white people to actually watch something. God damn it, maybe fucking learn something. Maybe, you know, start to understand things a bit better, you know, see things from like a black perspective so they know that when they're coming from, when they actually, start to speak out about racial injustice and well, I could go on forever, but I think get the point what I'm getting at.
Well, I do, but the reality is, we're speaking to the converted, sort of middle class hipsters who drink oat milk lattes and collect
I
vinyl.
don't.
That's the kind of
I
people
don't.
who watch Sinners. So like, they hate their whiteness so bad. I have a black boyfriend, but I have a Palestine flag and I voted for Jeremy Corbyn. Um, People who generally vote Reform are not going to watch Sinners, let alone they probably don't even know what it even is. Or they might see it, but they just might be like, hey, at least we saw some of the vampires being killed, and Haley Steinfeld, oh, I could jack off to her or something like that. So that's probably what's in their heads, but it's a strong 15 because lots of bits of bloody vampire violence, but I'm not really going to
Well, it's
contest the
quite.
rating on that one. I know some people got into a beef about
Mm.
the cunnilingus scenes.
Yeah, that was a bit. Yeah, that was quite strong. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, obviously, I don't actually necessarily see it, but it's not exactly subtle that they're getting at it. Um, Again, along with its 15 and here and its R in America, also the MA 15 plus in America, Australia. So it's got the trifecta. Fuck me, the trifecta in that regard. Um, as comparison to the Nosferatu film, which is technically a 2024 film, but didn't come out here until 2025, so I'm counting it. Which again, R here, sorry, R America, 15 Britain, but was only an M in Austria, but it was quite mild and everything. Sinners was much stronger than that because a lot of the blood was quite on screen. Sinners even has a self-harm scene. Do you remember that bit? Because we saw it at the cinema together.
Yes. I was quite surprised to see that too, because usually people are a bit
Mm.
flaky about, oh no, you can't show about suicide. It's a touchy topic. But I'm
Practically
one
speaking,
thing.
he wasn't doing it for suicide, given the context why he did it.
No, but you're right there. I won't say much further than that for spoiler reasons if people haven't seen it yet.
Definitely,
Um,
definitely.
but I'll say this about Sinners. While it's not my favorite film of the year, it's certainly got a lot of people talking. Oh, you were earlier on talking about Chainsaw Man. The one scene that I can't seem to get my head around is the scene where they're in the pool and they
Yeah,
got
that was
no
quite.
genitalia or no nipples. Like, what?
Well, obviously, that was done to get around that because the characters in question, or at least the main character, what's the name of the guy who's actually Chainsaw Man? I forget. I watched it just so recently now. I can't remember the character's name.
Denji. Denji.
Yeah, because he's actually like 16 or 17, so he's only a minor. So they had to do that just to get around that. But yeah, that really was quite an eye opener. But obviously, due to how they presented it, I'm guessing that's how they got away with it.
I would suppose, as far as I'm concerned, teenage boys would love it. There are some other films that you have seen that I haven't. Um, I know for me, because I'm looking at my top list of films to choose from. I mean, some of these ones aren't very contentious, at least to you. And some of them you probably haven't seen, like Eddington, which had quite a strong moment of violence where someone had their leg blown off and then they were shot in the head. That was quite graphic. And then also that was a very political film that dealt with the COVID lockdown in some sort of small town. Um, hard,
Yeah.
what?
What's it called again? What were you going to say? What's it called?
Eddington. It's a
No, the other one, the hard something.
Hard Truths. That was 12A. Mike
Oh,
Leigh
that one.
comedy
I
drama.
watched that.
I thought it was hilarious. Watching the lady
Yeah, I
arguing
watched
with
that
everyone.
recently. Yeah, I watched that on TV recently. That was so mild. It's like because that's actually R-rated in America, and it's just for that scene in the car park.
But I mean, there were other F words sprinkled around, like where the son was talking, was his like neighbors or something, and he was like mocking him. So there's about like
I don't remember
six
that.
F words in the
Well, I
film.
don't. Are you sure about that? Because I mean, the only F bombs I heard were those three in the car park when she's having that argument with that guy. Or
No, they were like
uh,
about three extra uses that were mostly concentrated in the scene where the son, he's overweight, usually doesn't say much. He was like somewhere, and
are you
it looks like
sure?
some of his mates were mocking him and trying to steal off his headset and say like "fucking this."
I don't
Oi,
remember saying that. And
oh,
according to this, according to IMDb, there's only three uses, and of course those were, well, as far as I'm concerned, those are the three that we mentioned in the car park scene.
well,
BBFC just says there is use of strong language. Fuck, but yeah, that doesn't really go in tell me much.
well.
Uh, that got PG in Well, in Canada, we've got PG in Alberta and British Columbia, and a G in Quebec. But then again, it's a very, very mild film. But again, it's a very mild film, though. I mean, if you were outside of the F bombs,
No, it is. I mean, there isn't really there's no violence, no drugs, no sex. It's just profanity, really. But I just thought to bring it up because 12A, usually you only hear like one or two uses. But then again, you got films like that and King's Speech and Good Day to Die Hard that get away with more than two or three uses. Oh, naughty, naughty. About Time had quite a lot. I could have even said about Savages. No, not the Oliver Stone film with Salma Hayek. This is a French animation that very few people saw, but I saw as part of a free screening nearby where I live. It was PG, but it had, I'll hear this, a middle finger gesture that they missed out on the subtitle version, but they only referenced it on the dubbed version, which had the same rating. On the disclaimer or the extended classification advice, when you click spoilers, it also had public urination in protest. There's a scene where orangutan is shot. There's child nudity. There's even maternal nudity involving tribal groups. And
well, and the
and
BBFC
threats
is
of guns
actually
towards
meant.
children.
Mark, the middle finger is actually referenced on the BBFC website, so I don't know what that. So I don't know what that's all about.
Well, it was for the dub version. I saw it subtitled. And I think on the subtitle one, they didn't even notice that there was a brief use of the fuck you finger, which nowadays would push a film to an automatic 12A.
That's what I was just talking about. I mean, yeah, the it doesn't matter if it's dubbed or subbed. If it's a visual thing, the middle finger. It's mentioned on the BBFC website.
Yeah, but it's for the dubbed version. But I'm not going to
It
go in
doesn't. Well, what
trouble.
does it matter if it's what does it matter if it's dubbed or subbed? I mean, it's not a word. It's not an audible thing. It's a visual thing.
It is, but I'm just like, the BBFC missed out on something that I picked up on. But I'm not going to fight the battles with you about that. But I just thought to bring that up because I was like, usually BBFC sees things sometimes we don't even pick up ourselves.
That
Oh,
what was that? What was that robot cartoon that came out recently?
Robot Dreams.
Yeah, Robot Dreams. Of course, that had to have a middle finger censored out in order to attain its PG rating. So that is kind of weird that they allowed it to go at Savages, but not at that.
That's what I'm wondering too. I've not seen Robot Dreams, but
Unless it was
it's a bit,
quicker in Savages.
bit contradictory. And then I think with Savages, it was quite brief, but I was like, the last time I ever
Ah,
saw
that's
something like
probably
that
right.
was Simpsons movie, which obviously had that scene where he was sinking into quicksand and doing like two fuck you fingers. And then the Mr. Bean movie from the 70s or the
I know
90s.
that when I saw Flow earlier this year, that Latvian film about the cat, and even that was PG in America, and that not just you here, but it was also G in Australia, and pretty much probably got an equivalent rating just about everywhere else in the well, I don't know, 6 rating in Germany. Oh, that's just, oh God, Germany's rating system's weird. But still find it weird that they feel they need to give such a high rating to such an innocuous film.
Well, I don't understand the rationale behind it because, as far as I'm concerned, because I've seen Flow as well, although I saw it a lot later than you did, it was perfectly fine to me at you. It was like an old school you film, as far as I'm concerned, where you had the
Yeah.
peril, and you almost feel like, oh no, the cat is gonna die, but then he doesn't when he falls into the water and almost is drowning, and then that scene with the pelicans sort of doing like some sort of gangland thing, holding him by the neck, and he was like squawking for his dear life. There's bits of sort of peril and maybe violence, but and then I think there's a scene where a dog urinates, but that's all fine to me at you because that's almost like watching a David Attenborough documentary, except with the voiceover reminding you that in the Safari Kingdom, the giraffe almost saw the hippo and was running away. Get what I did there?
Yeah, yes. I think everyone saw what you did there, Mark.
Oh yes. Yeah, weirdly enough, Flow is the first U certificate film I've seen since Space Jam New Legacy and Toy Story 4. that's a really long time. Um,
Well, it was quite recent for me because a lot previous U-rated film I saw at the cinema was The Wild Robot, but that was the first U-rated film I saw at the cinema with best memory since Ice Age 2.
oh, that's even worse. There are some other films that you have seen that I haven't, like um, Superman, which I know isn't remarkable at the BBFC level because, except for that black card that they
That's
custom made, but it had the controversy of the politics, and they said you're trying to make Superman not woke, Superman woke. I'll let you add on this because you've seen it. I haven't.
yeah, well, it was a standard bloody uh sorry, what was I gonna say? Standard superhero affair. Yeah, there was some clear parallels being in the overall plot line to the Israel-Palestine conflict, but to be fair, I would say it's quite subtly done because I never actually explicitly mention it. But oh boy, the Israeli supporters knew what was being said and they threw a shit fit about it. It was like, mate, we never said which country was actually the country in the real world was actually we were referring to. It's almost like you got a guilty conscience or something. But yeah, I don't think there's much to really go on. Of course, one thing that raised my eyes and made me smile quite a bit. 28 years later.
Oh, I probably should have mentioned that one earlier on. I haven't seen it. I'm like, why would they want to bring it back again? But I am aware from the clips
Oh.
I've seen how brutal it is at 15. I was like, that would have never passed at the 15, even 20 years ago. I was quite shocked. And then also there's like full nudity with hot, very long penises. Like, what on earth kind of movie is this?
Yeah, well, it's not exactly gratuitous. It's not exactly gratuitous nudity, sexualized nudity or anything. So I think you can sort of like give some leeway to it. Um, it is quite graphic violence, quite gruesome violence, but given the nature of it being a zombie apocalypse and a and survivalist and everything, that can easily be looked over. And of course, just recently this year, the original 28 Days Later was downgraded to a 15. So I think that takes us up to eight Robin Duvall 18s that have been downgraded to a 15. Although early this year as well, The Descent was downgraded to a 15. And that was a David Cook 18, so that's really saying something.
I saw that earlier on this year, and I was very concerned, but I feel like this is a battle I cannot win anymore, and I kind of just have to give it and say, well,
You should, but not. It's not about you be trying to fight anyway. I mean, I wouldn't. I don't see why anyone would want to try and fight back against the march of liberalism, unless if you're the kind of person that thinks like Mary Whitehouse. Which, let's face it, uh, if you are, it's not the kind of person I'd really want to. I would really have much to say to.
well, I would like to make clear for the audience out there. I know they may think I'm some sort of like right-wing extremist, but I am clearly not. I realize the good aspects of free media. But I do realize you have to have an element of responsibility within your own character, not to imitate stuff that you see on screen or to have some sort of element of context to what you're seeing. Because what often happens is people will misinterpret what is being depicted on screen and take it at face value, or they may sort of twist around, justify it for their own means. To put it into perspective, American History X, Romper Stomper, these are films that actually depict the harsh real world lives of white nationalism. But there's a lot of white nationalists who love those two movies and almost claim it as their own, even though Ed Norton is Jewish and the message is probably more complex than what is necessary.
Oh yeah. Um, I mean, yeah, don't think I caught all of that, but I mean, yeah, sure, rights come responsibilities, but again, there's no reason for those in power to be doing illiberal things. I mean, in a day, I've got two ways, mate. You either hold liberal views because you love freedom, or you hold illiberal views because you hate freedom. And I suppose you could say there's a maybe a spectrum where you can sort of like take a middle ground, but ultimately you got to pick a side, and I'll always be on the side of of freedom and liberty, and just not being told what to do.
I'm
I
probably
mean, I know it's like a
more.
bit. I mean, I know ultimately, like, the BBFC didn't ban a film, so it is for freedom, but to them to give, when they start giving higher ratings in other countries, it just reflects poorly upon us. However, they didn't do it this one, and I was very pleased with them, and I was quite impressed with them for showing the bollocks to do so.
Well, there you go. There you go. Um, yeah, that was just me sort of droning on, but it's always a point to
Yes, you
discuss,
noticed.
especially for the public. While Rob Bavister, Jerry is a bit more libertarian in his leanings, Jerry, tend to be a little bit more sort of on the security stance of things. I like an element of sort of stability and safety blanket. Maybe that's probably the nanny state in me, but yeah, at times I'm
Yeah,
not
I'm
as
kind of
nanny.
thinking you should probably try reading Orwell's 1984 and then get back to me.
Although I do draw the line on political censorship, I am certainly not a fan of arresting people just because they supported Palestinian liberation or because they said the war. Like in Russia, you get prosecuted and serve prison time for that. I absolutely don't endorse stuff like that. That terrifies me because I know any minute now they'll probably do the same to me as well. But I'm going to jump on back to the cinema again because I know what I'm like. I digress all the time. I could have brought up a few other films as well, like for instance, Predator: Badlands, which I know has been a PG-13
I was,
12A
I was
film,
going
and
to
I'm like,
bring,
what?
yeah, I was going to bring that one up and everything because, well, I think the first time a film with Predator involving the Predator franchise has been rated PG-13. We had 2004's Alien versus Predator. However, the BBFC still decided that one had to be a 15 because were still having they still had small dicks back then. I mean, they weren't dicks weren't as small as they were in the 20th century, but the dicks hadn't grown as big as they could be. This time around, however, BBFC showed they had real big dick energy and did give it the PG-13 rate for the film a 12A. So I was quite pleased with them, considering a lot of other film countries didn't even give it that lower rating. In fact, if you quickly go into IMDb, I don't know if you've got access to it right now, Mark.
I'll check for you.
Mark,
I'll
no,
check for
I'm on
you.
it right now, but yeah, if you could check as well.
But I am aware neighboring Ireland gave it a 15A, which I
Yeah,
thought, okay.
Germany gave it a 16. Um, Norway gave it a 15. Russia gave it, well, Russia gave Power Rangers film an 18, so fuck, they're stupid. Um, Switzerland 16, South Korea 15. So, I mean,
New
yeah, I mean
Zealand
the BBFC,
R13.
yeah, well that's on the same level. Um, so the
No,
BBS, so it's obviously quite a strong, reasonably strong film given, well, if you remove the context. Yeah, but so BBFC did show some bollocks with that. Obviously, there's a lot of justification is that there's no humans or real animals in it getting killed. The only things getting killed are fantastical alien creatures and those simps. Because have you seen Predator: Badlands, Mark?
I don't even want to. It would be
No,
offensive.
it's really good. No, it's a good film. It's a good film. I mean, if you'd see it less like a Predator film, more so like a Star Wars type film, you can actually probably appreciate it a lot better.
Well, I'll take your word for it because I know you've seen the original films. You're more invested into the world, and you've obviously seen Prey and The Killer of Killers.
Oh yeah.
So,
I mean, I know. I mean, I was a bit like thinking I thought it was going to be sort of like a massive hack and slash like that. And to be honest, it is massively hack and slash. It's also quite nice that it takes it from a point of view of a predator rather than the other people. So that's quite innovative and intriguing. But it's like just at the end, he's through this because it has a connection to the Alien universe as well because Weyland Yutani are mentioned, and of course, there's all those simps that you see in the Alien franchise. And at the end, man, motherfucker, he is fucking wrecking him up. No end. And he's just going cutting, slashing. Is like, yeah, this is a 12A because they're simps and not humans. There's no blood. It's just that like milky goo that the simps basically have in them. And of course, and of course some alien creatures die. But again, they're not real creatures. But they're just fantastical alien ones and it's completely CGI blood effects. So again, it was just like yeah, it was just open day within the confines of a 12A rating. I suppose I could say I've seen more violent 12A films, which are more eye-opening, given that they do involve humans being killed, like Alita Battle Angel and Kong Skull Island and Doctor Strange 2, all of which I've basically gave thumbs up to the BBFC for. But still, it was quite a turn for books, nonetheless.
Well, I am aware from the comments that they said, well, it certainly pushes the envelope. They get away with substituting red for white. But then again, Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, from what I was told, had a similar issue where they had sort of fake-looking gore to bypass the censors a bit, but that still got an R rating, and it was a 15.
And an MA 15 plus, I think.
But, it's a historical period horror produced by Tim Burton, so I'm not entirely sure where the mindset was at. Plus, it just sounds awfully silly. Like Pride and
That was
Prejudice
a
and
stupid film.
Zombies sounds like the dumbest shit I've ever heard. I could have brought up, let's say, Snow White, which was more controversial because of the two actresses involved, but that was mainly due with politics and also the fact that it's a Disney remake. But it didn't show that based
Also,
on animosity.
it's controversial because it was shit.
Well, no shit, Sherlock, and the fact that he even made some bit of cash is just sad, really. And then they even
Oh,
made more
yeah,
cash.
but come on, dude, it bombed hard, man.
It
No,
did, and I'm happy that it
that was
failed.
hilarious. Oh, I'm so fucking happy it failed. I mean, there's many reasons why it failed and just no one was interested. Maybe you looked at the trailers and it just looked absolutely terrible. But also, it's like, dude, it's another film based on Snow White. Who's going to be lining up to see that? They had a Snow White film just 13 years ago, Snow White and the Huntsman with Kristen Stewart and Charlize Theron, and
Yeah,
it's like that was crap, but probably not as crap as this.
and Phil Collins' daughter, Lily, was in a movie called Mirror Mirror with Julia Roberts. So there's already more than enough Snow White films, but I feel that way about Pinocchio and Frankenstein as well. And I know Guillermo del Toro done the
Well,
remakes for both
well,
of those
because
films.
before we go on to that, because there was another live action Disney remake this year as well, wasn't there? There was Lilo and Stitch,
There were,
and
which got the
and of
same
course,
rating.
that got you here, didn't it? Well, anywho, the point is that actually did quite well. A, 'cause it got good reviews or reasonably good reviews, and B, probably because it's not something that's been done to death like a million times. Sure, it's a remake, but it's quite a relatively recent Disney film, so it's probably going to be a market for it. Anyway, that's just my 2 cents on that. It's not really relevant thing, but uh, oh God, that Snow White film. What a fucking stupid misfire. Did you want to talk about Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein?
Well, it was just mainly in the context of remakes. I don't really care.
That's fine.
I'm
It was
sure
quite
if
good.
it's a fine 15. No, nothing contentious except horror, maybe some sex. But
I don't think there's any swearing in it because just the swearing wouldn't gel well with the rest of the movie. It is well, it's just typical. Again, 15 R MA 15 plus. You know, there's got the trifecta, and it fits within all those boundaries. So yes.
and then can I bring up Minecraft in this? That's not so
Oh
much.
God,
I know that's
go ahead.
quite standard PG. Certainly had a bit more swearing than most kids' films do. But it's the chicken jockey thing I keep hearing on at schools and through kids. It's like the 67 thing. What the hell are you talking about? What is chicken
Don't
jockey with 67?
Chicken Jockey, I think, is a thing from Minecraft, which only the fans of the game would get. To be fair, it's probably best just not pay attention to that crap. And yeah, don't ask me about a 6-7 thing. I think it's deliberately just meaningless.
I thought they were referencing a sex act. Well, but that's 69, but well,
Yeah,
play.
I don't think 6 and 7. I think 6 and 7 is just some stupid thing that do it. It'll go. It'll wither away just like Skibbity Toilet did.
Well, let's hope so. And Five Nights at Freddy's and Labubu's and all these little Gen Alpha things that the even younger than Gen Z are obsessed with. I don't quite get the appeal behind any of this. Labubu's,
Well,
like,
we
come
wouldn't.
on. Let's
Well,
just talk
when
about
I was a kid,
Furbies.
you had Pokemons when you were a youngster, and then when I was a kid, we had monsters in my pockets. I'm just comparing them to them.
We also had Furby as well, and that was a horror show. I don't want to talk about that again. Um,
Yeah, I remember. Oh, we
uh,
had trolls a lot as a kid as well. Oh,
oh yeah,
that's weird. Anyway,
my mother's generation had the Trolls as well. Um, with that, another film that's to be said as well. I know two films. Marching Powder, that was probably one of the few 18 films, like Poor Things, that was censored even to get its adult rating. But this time it was mainly because it conveyed pornographic images on a computer screen next to someone who's clearly not 18. You could tell
marching
there
powder.
was superimposed image of what looks to be a fake screen, obviously for censorship reasons, and the boy looks like he's
Yeah,
passed
I
out.
know. Yeah, marching powder.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I sorry, I couldn't remember if that was this year or last year. Yeah, I saw that just recently and everything, and yeah, oh my God, it was so clearly a freaking superimposed bloody screen just to get her because they weren't allowed to show that. But yeah, I was wondering if it was going to be rated 18. When I first heard it, I was wondering if it was going to be rated 18 or get away with 15, but no, well, it was typical. No, but as most of the Nick Love stuff, it did get slapped with a freaking. Yeah, I did get slapped with an 18, and of course, yeah, it does delve straight into it. Like, how many times is the word cunt mentioned throughout that film?
I mean, it's certainly one of the most vulgar films I've ever seen in the cinema outside of The Gentleman, the Guy Ritchie film. But the thing that always bothered me about Marching Powder was not so much the sexual stuff, was that they didn't mention drug use on the ratings description, because this movie is very heavy on drugs.
It's
It's
called
just
fucking
there's
marching powder.
very strong language and sex references. That was it on the disclaimer. Like, what? Exactly, because Marching Powder is slang for cocaine.
Well, exactly, yeah.
It's
I mean,
like
I'm
Charlie.
surprised, and of course, like, yeah, well, like most films involving done by Nick Love, starring Danny Dyer. I mean, references to cocaine use will be massively excessive, or GAC as it's sometimes called now. Um, yeah, and I think like Danny Dyer himself has tended to use it quite a bit as well. But I mean, yeah, I mean, yeah, it doesn't pull any punches, at least in terms of like the abrasive language and drug references. I mean, hell, the fact that like when the kid is in that scene where the kid is by the laptop, he's got all kinds of like freaking pills are lying around him as well. Well, it's like, wow.
I would be, if I was the parent of the child in a scene like that, I would say, could you not show
Well,
my
it was
child?
his son. It was his own son.
Oh, I didn't
Danny
even
Dyer's
pick
own
up on
son.
that. Well, so there's a level of awareness. So, but if it was me as the parent, I would be like, oh, probably should put my child in too adult of a situation. I'd be quite guarded about that, especially more if I had a daughter, because
Hmm.
Jerry, girls are more in danger's way than boys. But that's just me speaking from uh, what I'm aware of in my environment. Another film that I actually was almost going to see today, but I thought I'll save the train fare to London, is Magazine Dreams, which has come out
What?
selected release at View Cinemas nationwide, and it's Jonathan Majors, who's known as Kang from Marvel.
Yeah,
Uh,
I know. Yeah,
he's
know
had
him. Yes.
unfortunately those legal troubles, and people kind of think him as like a new O.J. Simpson because he beat up a white girl. Um, his film couldn't get released for 2 years, and I feel a bit sad about missing out on it. But hopefully, I'll catch it sometime later on. It's essentially a really angry film about a bodybuilder who's a bit like Travis Bickle, but is obsessed with weights and wants to be, most macho man on the stage. But he's got mental health issues, and it's a 15 from what I'm aware of radar. But it's the legal issues he's been facing that has meant to some degree there was censorship in that the film couldn't get released on time.
Um, Speaking of a film that I mean, I've noticed an influx of films getting rated 18 now, actually, because I mean, we've had Bring Her Back. That was one. Was it Bring Her Back? The
Yes,
Australian one?
is it that movie that has the scene with a kid cutting his own tongue or lips or something?
Yeah, yeah, he's
Oh,
biting himself. I think that's what did it. Oh, sorry. We've had Him. Um, that film. You know that film, Him?
yes. So it's got American football, produced by Jordan Peele. I don't know what was pushed it to 18, but it got a 15A in Ireland, which I find a bit bizarre. Um,
I didn't.
quite
I haven't
marginal.
seen it because I haven't seen the. I haven't seen the. Well, I saw the reviews. I didn't want to go see it. There's also Weapons. You seen that?
No, I've seen the clips though of the person smashing someone's head in headbutting in the kitchen, and then that scene where they rip someone's face out, their jaw. I was like, oh, that is quite gruesome.
It is quite. It is
Uh,
quite
it's like
brutal.
kids doing the violence.
I'm not. Yeah. Well, in the case of like Weapons, it was gross with violence. But I mean, because it was done by Zach Cregger, and what else did? Well, he'd also done Gun Barbarian, which is also freaking got an 18 rating. I don't know. I don't know. That's the directing. Miss March. Well, I don't know. I've said so many 18s, but I can't fucking think of any. Well, there was Baby Girl at the beginning of this year, which I didn't think was very good after seeing it, considering I heard it was good. In terms of like the sexual content, it really wasn't all that.
No, it felt like it was shortchanging much, and they said about nudity and stuff, but I failed to see any sort of skin really, except just a brief shot of Nicole Kidman's bum. One thing I will say though about this year, even with all the horrible things that have happened, is that I've had the privilege of seeing some films I've always wanted to see in the cinema. And I finally got to see them at like the Repertoire cinemas, particularly the Prince Charles in London. I'm sure you're well aware of this from personal messaging between us.
Yeah, you did say you had mentioned you'd been to see a few films you'd wanted to see before. Of course, memory's failing me to remember it, but I think was one of them Perfect Blue?
That was the one. I saw that at
Yeah, I
the
went.
Odeon in Greenwich, the same place that I saw, weirdly enough, that anime film Kizumonogatari Koyomi-fan, which is the first 18 certificate animation I ever seen in a cinema. This is the second Perfect Blue, but obviously Perfect Blue was first because I was back from the 90s. But they did a special re-release of it, and I felt absolutely honored, just like I did with South Park, Big Along and Uncut, of seeing it on the big screen. Um, as far as I'm concerned, there were no kids that snuck into it, which disappointed me. No one saw like cheering at it like it was with Sausage Party when I saw that with Lisa. But I'm glad I got to fulfill a lifetime goal. Because the reason why I mainly got into ratings itself was because there were animated works I couldn't legally see as a child. And that's imprinted in my brain for years.
Yeah, I went to see Perfect Perfect Blue at the cinema. I just figured it'd be worth going to see. I don't usually go see to cinema to see films that have been out for ages and everything, but aside in this case, I would, especially as I'd only seen Perfect Blue once before and everything, and because it was a hard time finding anywhere. So I'm going to go see it, and unfortunately, due to I think an error with the timing or anything, or they made a mistake showing the time, instead of actually like getting it before a film started, I actually got in just about a minute or two after the film actually started. So I was a bit miffed about that, but hell, I got to see the majority of it, and that was quite good. And it is, yeah, and as the films go, it holds up and everything. Even if some of the technological references are a little outdated, but yeah, it's it's a very good film and everything. Uh, quite gruesome and quite graphic in some places. I can see why it upheld it. Well, I can see why it upheld its 18. Bearing in mind it's the fully uncut version we got here, which would have essentially got an NC-17 in America.
There was some censorship that was done stateside when it initially came out, although subsequent versions of Perfect Blue made available stateside are the uncut versions where we see full nudity as well as that really brutal stabbing scene and the
That's a
rapes.
brutal fun. That's fucking yeah. Oh, that's a brutal fucking. That's a brutal scene. It's quite telling when a film like fucking Chainsaw Man and the Demon Slayer films get out with completely uncut 15 ratings, but that gets that still needs to be rated an 18 because yeah, I think it's more of could be more of a sexual violence element.
Well, rape has always been a sticking point for British censors, a lot more than just regular violence itself. So that is none the surprising for me. And even as someone who's seen some things I wish I didn't see, like obviously I talk about Elfen Lied a lot, at least with Perfect Blue, it's grounded in the real world. Elfen Lied is grounded in sort of sci-fi, horror, fantasy context. So that makes it probably more personal. And I've heard even feminist groups either praise or condemn Perfect Blue for those very reasons, because the film deals a lot with um, sexual violence and stalking and harassment, which certainly affect women a lot more than men. And to hear an
Well,
animated
yeah.
film with that sort of subject matter be brought up in conversation like that is certainly surprises me. I certainly would not have picked up on this if I had a weird way of seeing it underage. When I first saw trailers for it on UDirect, which was a little pay-per-view service on Sky that came out in the early 2000s. Imagine if 7-year-old me saw it at the time. I probably would have been traumatized and I probably would have ended up in a mental institute. I could only imagine, given your conversations with me.
Well, possibly. I mean, I don't know. I can't imagine it done that much of a effect. I don't know how much really the media we consume really affects us anyway. Like I say, I saw RoboCop when I was about 5 or 6, and while the scene scared me, I can't say it's completely freaking made me go mental or anything, because I don't think so.
But
Also,
then,
because we were talking about the amount of films that got rated 18 this year, because Black Phone 2, that got an 18 and everything. I haven't seen it, but I'm still surprised just about it.
no, you're not wrong, because I was assuming it was going to be a 15 like normal, especially when I saw the trailers for it, when I saw The Long Walk. And then I thought, oh, it's probably because it's got more sadistic violence and scenes of teenagers or kids being murdered, which, horrible and gruesome as that sounds, when you read on the surface, I don't know. I don't know because I've never seen Black Phone 1 or 2, so I can't
Nor have
speak
I
on them.
actually.
But I would presume it's probably, he takes relish in watching people die in gruesome manner.
'Cause I know, yeah, the Heart Eyes film got rated 18 as well, and of course, unlike Thanksgiving, which was not only pushing NC-17 in America, but got an R18 plus in America, this one didn't. Well, I don't know about the case with the MPAA, but the ACB gave an MA 15 plus, Heart Eyes this is. So again, that raises a few questions. That latest film Pillion has just come out, and that's been rated 18. I don't know anything about that and everything, but I know Tom's going to go see it, so he'll having good fun with that.
I have
Uh,
seen them. They may threaten to censor it when it comes to the US market, which makes me very nervous.
it's
But I'm
only MA
aware.
15 plus in Australia, bearing in mind.
Oh, I thought it would have been like an R18 because I heard the words gay BDSM, and I thought they're never going to tolerate something like this. This is too radical. But we'll see how it turns out. I haven't heard people walking out or calling it pornographic, or you know how people are.
Well,
They're very homophobic.
yeah, I know. There's also like a load of all those public domain those horror films based on public domain characters like Mickey Mouse and Popeye and whatnot that have been coming out lately.
I am aware there's Screamboat. That was 16 in Ireland, 18 here.
Yeah, Mouseboat Massacre. There's also Popeye the Slayer Man and I was also Screamboat and Shiver Me Timbers and all that stuff. All 18s here. Um, yeah, but I don't
Not
think any of them are. Oh, Popeye's Revenge. I don't think any of them are rated in America, so they probably could have been NC-17s anyway. But I do not know.
well, I
Oh,
know.
man, the Uglies. Ugly Stepsister as well. I watched that recently. Of course, that got and that was a 18. I think what was it?
Really? Oh,
Not yeah, not rated in the US. Doesn't see what it has in Australia on IMDb. Uh, 18 in Ireland. 16 in Germany, so make of that what you will. R21 in Singapore, 19 in South Korea. I didn't know that was a thing. 18 Ukraine. So yeah, it was pretty grim and gruesome. So yeah, again, and of course there's a Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare, which was also an 18, although it was only MA 15 plus in Australia. But I think that's more due to the child abduction themes more than anything else. The Bambi film was only a 15 here.
you know a lot more about these weird horror mashup public domain films than I do, because the one I'm aware of is Winnie the Pooh, sorry, and then the
Yeah,
Grinch
like
one, the mean one that's 15. I'm like, who exactly? What audience is this for?
sorry, wait. What film was that again?
The mean one. It's a 15 horror mashup of Grinch. I'm like, what kind of audience is this for? I'm like, children would be traumatized by something like this. And there's me
Well,
just
it's
thinking,
obviously
this is
not a
stupid.
well, it's not aimed at kids then, is it? Because it's got a 15 rating.
Exactly. But I'm talking out of my ass. Because I'm like, because I've seen a lot more of these sort of weird mashup public domain films that turn to horrors so they can sort of exploit for quick cash. I think it's clever, but at the same time, you're like, oh God, here we go. Blood and Honey, Winnie the Pooh is one of the big culprits I'm aware of. But then
It was
again,
the one that started it, yes.
you know, Terrifier's probably got some part to play in this because I think they're released by the same distributor in both countries, Signature or Screenbox or Cineverse, and they get away with a lot of these sort of like weird, ultra gory horrors that one hasn't seen like since the 1980s. Like they just even did a remake of Toxic Avenger, which I know you've seen. Which is weirdly enough, it's a horror comedy action superhero film. So you would think, oh, 15, no problem, because like Suicide Squad and Kick-Ass. Nope, this is an 18 from what I was told. I can't tell you why. I'm guessing it's because it's really gory or it's got some odd bits of sexualized gore. I'll let you inform me on this one.
Wait, remind me of the film again?
Toxic Avenger 2025.
Oh God, that one. Yeah, but that was oh that God, I forgot about that one. Shit. Yeah, but that was like that was really fucking I don't probably not as gruesome as I thought it was gonna be, but because bear in mind the version we got here was the completely was the well, allegedly the unrated version. I mean, don't know how unrated, but I would say don't know how unrated, like that's a thing. Uh Yeah, I mean, obviously, just like the original Trauma films, I mean, it does not hold back with just showing everything, with just going all in on all the gore and everything. And of course, the bad guys in it are just absolutely ridiculously horrible. So, I mean, well, I mean, I watched it, and yeah, exactly. In terms of gruesomeness, it doesn't leave much to the imagination.
So all I heard was there was a scene where someone has intestines ripped out of their anus or something or whatever. I can't exactly put my finger on it, but it just sounds to me it sounds like Hobo with a Shotgun, which that's a horror action comedy, whatever you want to call it, vigilante porno. That's just really violent but
Yeah,
very funny.
I only
It's sort of,
saw that one once. I remember it being quite entertaining. Yeah,
and it's
and of
always a
course that. Hmm.
bit of a weird one
That
for
was
me
basically rated the equivalent 18 everywhere. But carry on.
because these sort of comedy horror films generally tend to sort of sit at the 15 cap nowadays, especially when you got stuff like Deathgasm that can somehow get away with a 15 without consequence, or Guns Akimbo, and that was a sorry, wrong one choice, but Deathgasm particularly, and then flip it again, and then Studio 666, which had the Foo Fighters, that was 18. Yeah, it was comedic, and I can't. There's no sort of consistency. But I'll jump back in because I know I said about 70s films. I did see Clockwork Orange for the first time in cinemas, I've seen it about 2 or 3 times prior to that. That was another film like Perfect Blue that I was very happy to have seen on the big screen. I don't probably need to go on about it because everyone knows, oh, it's got rape and ultra violence, and his eyes are stuck up and he's watching these horrible scenes in a Ludovico technique. But I wanted to tell that for all the fans out there because if you're a censorship person like us and you haven't seen Clockwork Orange, I'll send your ass to prison. I even seen Showgirls at a cinema
Hmm.
at a View for a re-release. It was
Yeah.
not in 35 millimeter, unfortunately. It was a
Yeah.
DCP or digital print, but it was the uncut version of Showgirls with the rape and obviously all the nudity and the sexual stuff. And I felt so happy to finally see the forbidden film on the big screen. And then with South Park, obviously that one's a given because you got to see it on the screen, but I didn't, which pissed me off. But I finally got to meet you in the middle, 26 years
What?
later.
Yeah, 26, I was going to say, yeah, like more than a quarter of a century later.
Exactly. I
But
was so happy. It was a 35 millimeter print, but they didn't put the fucking black card. So that I didn't see a 15 logo on the beginning of the film. It was just started with the Warner Brothers logo.
well, yeah. Yeah. Like I said, I watched Clockwork Orange a few years back on the just regular on TV and everything. Yeah, it was a right film, but no, I didn't take much away from it. Um, yeah, Showgirls, well, I'd seen that on TV when it's broad regular. I think it was Channel 5 aired it all those years ago. I thought it was okay, nothing much, and I watched it just recently a few years back. Yeah, I can see why I got the uh one Razzie for worst picture that year. It's a shit film, and I respect Paul Verhoeven for like saying no, for God's sake, release it with an NC-17. I'll take a pay cut. Yeah, I gotta respect. Big props to him to that when it came out. But yeah, it's a bad film.
It is. It's not very sexy either. I would have
Nah,
much more
hardly
fun,
Emmanuel.
or hardly Pulp Fiction in my eyes. That was
Well,
just me being funny.
yeah,
But
right.
no. But yeah, that I wanted to tell everyone out there that I got the privilege to see those on the big screen. I even saw Hard Boiled, the John Woo film in Canada. Um, I only paid about like £4.28 with the exchange rate from CAD. That's not a controversial film like the others I mentioned, but that was a re-release of a film at the time that would have been very violent. I'm sure you've seen Hard Boiled, and that's got a lot of
I think I've
bloody
seen it
shootouts.
once. Yes. Yeah, I think I've seen it once. Yes.
Well, I'm sure for back then it was probably deemed very violent, just like Tetsuo the Iron Man was, you know. But these were films that are more aimed at sort of like hardcore action fans, not just people who are into Schwarzenegger and Stallone. But you know, John Woo knows his stuff, and I can't punch him to it. But you're more of a fan of his stuff than I am. But I just want to let
Yeah.
that out in the open, because I'm referencing from the. Sorry, my brain's not working. I'm referencing from my little list of top films that I liked this year. So it's a bit hard for me to sort of keep up in tally with all the films I've seen. I know I've seen The Brutalist earlier on this year. That was a marginal 18, mainly because of quite a graphic scene of a hand job. This happens in the first 5 minutes. I was like, whoa. I almost thought I saw Adrian Brody's Willie. I didn't need to see that. And then, some quite erotic scenes of Felicity Jones getting it on with Adrian Brody while she's drugged under heroin. And a horrible rape scene, man on man, of Guy Pearce threatening to humiliate Adrian Brody as the architect. So I was like, oh. The marketing made it look like it was like a 12A PG-13 type of historical drama, but it was actually a lot heavier than that. And it's also very long. I think you would probably fall asleep doing a film like that. But you've seen Killers of the Flower Moon, so I think you can
Oh
handle
God.
it.
I mean, I was going to mention that Nasia too, but it's not so much for a ratings issue and everything, because it was a 12. It's been again 12A here, PG-13 America, M in Australia. Although this is quite high ratings for what we essentially saw as a kids' film and everything. And yeah, when watching it, it is quite violent. I was just quite surprised by how much bank it made.
Well, that's why I'm surprised too. It made more money than quite a lot. If I'm correct, it's the highest grossing animated film ever.
Highest grossing animated film ever, highest grossing non-English language film ever, highest grossing of a film so far, fifth highest grossing film of all time.
Yeah, that's
Oh, and the highest grossing film in one single market by a by quite a margin.
yeah, that even astounds me. Because I've well, for just to put it out there, even though I love adult animation and foreign films, I've not seen Nesha or one or two, but I am aware
I
that
haven't seen the first one.
there's some blood doing the violence, although fantastical. But yeah, it would be a bit strange. But then again, like with all things, the 12A has diminished its power. But the last set of titles, off the top of my head, are quite controversial. Um, well, not really. I mean, I did see a lot of films in other countries. You get a view of what their rating system is like, and I'll give you an indication. For example, Chainsaw Man, that was 15A. Pastime 36 was 12A. That was in Ireland. In Iceland, I saw Heavier Trip. I don't recall the rating on that one. Good Fortune, I saw in Estonia. That was considered 14 and up, or what they call M14 in Estonia. Um, the Long Walk was 13 plus in Quebec. Hardboard was 13 plus in Quebec. The majority of the others was like Sinners and Megan 2.0, March, but I saw those in the UK. But it gets you talking. I know with Good Fortune, for example, that was one of the few Seth Rogen films I'm aware of that doesn't really have much in the way of excessive sex and drug humor. I mean, there's some jokes about ayahuasca and stuff, but it felt like it was more just be giving it the 15 because of the language. It was actually quite a good film,
Yeah.
although I don't agree with Aziz Ansari going to the Riyadh Comedy Festival. So
No, that's
him and
bad. Well, that was bad.
Dave Chappelle
Yeah,
and
that was
Bill Burr like, no. So you saw eye to eye with me on that.
I don't really think to that's bad to go into the Riyadh Comedy Festival. I mean, you're just trying to essentially whitewash the frickin' the Saudi regime, and you're essentially doing a puff piece for them, essentially speaking, and will help them launder their image. It's not good.
I think so either. While I do like the film Good Fortune, I don't agree with the means of why they went to there. They probably thought, hey, payday. It was like
Oh
in
yeah, well they
Chappelle's
saw
case.
dollar signs and yeah, they saw dollar signs and that was basically about it.
Absolutely. As would anyone. You've met a lot of British people in your time. They say, "Oh, I'd love to work in Dubai." Well, there you go. You couldn't pay me to go to the UAE. No way. The last film I will say before we sort of clean up things is Memoirs of a Snail, which for me is my number one favorite film of the year. I know for you it was Sinners. Memoirs of a Snail was a bit of an unusual one because it was on the margins at the 15 level. It could have been a 12. It probably would have been a 12 at one point in time, but I'm guessing because there's a weird little subplot about a guy with a fat fetish. He's taking photos against his wife's will as well as several others. That probably didn't fly too well with them as well. I think there was also um, bits of cartoon sexualized nudity, although it's for comic effect. Nothing sexy about it. No, no, no. That pushed it at the 15 level, even though it's an M in Australia in its native Oz. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's a wonderful little film. Essentially
I've
about
not seen it, no. I would like to see it, but I haven't seen it.
it's on BFI Player. You can get like a free trial for about 2 weeks. Pretty much about two orphan kids who grew up with a French father, Australian mother, and they're separated after their parents die. One of them lives in Perth with a religious kook of a family and is threatened of being outed. And then the other one lives with a kooky old grandma who's funny and does like lap dancing with those twirly things on her nipples and had sex with John David and played table tennis with Fidel Castro. It's a lovely little film from the land of kangaroos and people who like to call themselves cunt and shout abo cunt, which I can't endorse, and say, this is a
Hmm.
knife. That's a knife? No, this is a knife. Sorry, I'm going off script here, but I just thought to say that because it's quite funny. I also saw Penguin Lessons as well. That was a free screening, courtesy of the BFI and Cinematic, with Steve Coogan, who I think is facing some legal troubles regarding a film that he did called The Lost King. He's being taken to court. I
Hmm.
think he might have some debt, lots of debt, like in the millions. That was not so much the language that was a problem, because there was like about like two F words and the use of cock, but it was the politics of the film because it deals with the Argentine dictatorship. It was quite a funny film, but some of it was quite disturbing because some of it just looked
What,
to me like,
Sapun, did you say?
what?
What was the film called again?
The Penguin Lessons.
Oh, Penguin Lesson. Sorry, my mistake. Oh, yeah, I heard about that. Never actually didn't get to see it. Never went to
Oh,
see it, though. Probably should have.
it came out same time as Sinners and Warfare, which I was saying like to you one of the times, oh, I saw that already. One of these places. You might not like the film because it's a little bit, what's the word, sentimental or mawkish, but some of it's quite terrifying, especially with the depiction of the Argentine dictatorship and kidnapping people as political prisoners. It was just reminding me too much of what ICE is doing in America to people who even have legal papers.
Well,
It
that
made
should be
me,
enough to
oh,
yeah, that should be well, that should say it all, shouldn't it?
absolutely. But I get easily frightened by stuff nowadays, especially because when I look out my doorstep, all I see is hellfire, and I don't want to walk in a burning building. Keep me inside. Don't let me out. But that's just me rambling on. I don't know if you saw I Swear. I was told by one source, his name's Joseph, he's a good man. There's like 10 or 20 plus uses of cunt in a 15 film. I could be wrong on this, but I would quite shocked. But I guess it's like King's Speech where he's got a medical problem, like a stutter or Tourette's syndrome. He's just like, so about fuck this one. It was fucking fucking
Hmm.
You haven't seen I Swear, I guess.
I no, I don't think I have. No.
Well, hopefully I might be seeing it on Monday night because they're playing it nearby where I live. Um, Cheaper tickets as well, but I'll tell you all about it. But I'm not going to put on any lists or anything like countdowns. But it'll be interesting to see if, from what Joseph has told me, if it really does have like 10 or 20 plus uses of cunt. I saw Better Man last year around Boxing Day, and that was one of the most
Yeah, I
vulgar
watched that
15
recently as
films
well.
I've ever seen. But I'm sure for you, you were like, hey,
Mm.
at least the BBFC's growing up. They've gotten balls to put CG Monkey snorting coke and talking about, Liam Gallagher's a cunt. Oh, that's a weird movie.
Yeah,
I love it for the
yeah,
talking
bizarre.
chimpanzee.
Yeah, bizarre film, but generally quite yeah, but generally very good though, and it was a nice spirit, especially considering it's from like a nostalgic throwback to a time I can actually remember, which is more of what can be said for Bohemian Rhapsody and Rocket Man.
Well, for you, that was more your
Anyway,
parents' generation. I grew up
yeah.
with Robbie
Anyway,
Williams as well.
yeah. Anywho, shall we begin to bring this to an end now? Because we have been going on for quite some time.
We have, and I think we said what we had to say about all the great films that have come out this year, as well as other political controversies that have unsettled us but made us laugh. So, in response to ending on this broadcast, we're going to say death, death to the military industrial complex. Say it with me.
Doesn't have the same ring. Doesn't have the same ring to it really, but
Or we could say death, death
uh,
to the MIC.
again, no, not really. No, not really the same. It has the sort of like has a sort of rhyme. I think that's why it went off so well. Death, death to the IDF. But fuck the military industrial complex and fuck ICE and fuck Trump. Just want to say that.
He can say
And
that
fuck
'cause
Nigel
he's
Farage. And fuck Reformer Nigel Farage while we're here.
yeah, and also fuck Shabana Mahmood trying to play reform light. As far as I'm concerned, she'll pay her price one way or another in the polls when she's voted out because she's not popular with the far left, and the far right is seeing through her bullshit as well. I can't stand Shabana. I can't stand Keir either because I'm the more
To be fair,
conservative
I don't
one
really.
between the two, between us.
To be fair, I don't really care much for this new Labour government. I mean, I was glad the Tories got voted out, but I mean, they haven't really done much to great. And to be fair, I'm probably going to throw my lot with Zach Plansky and the Greens next time round.
But you'd be doing the right thing there because, as far as I'm concerned, your party it cannot be saved. It's pretty
Oh,
much damaged.
That's a forgotten thing. That's over and done with. No,
You
no.
know,
Check where you should know which way the wind's blowing. It's Greens under Polanski.
same here. And even if I lived in Wales, I probably would vote for the PC as well. But they're very regionalist. But that doesn't have a problem with me. But I'm going to shut up. Until then, bye everyone for now, and watch this space.